So today we're going to continue to solve a system of equations. We're going to do it graphically again, but what we're going to do today is we're actually going to use our graphing calculator to make the graph. So the general idea here is the graphing calculator will make the graph and find where the two lines touch. That is our goal, which I'm going to list here so you can copy that down into your notes. So the goal of this, which I'm just labeling, is the same goal that we'd had if we were doing it by hand, but this time we're going to have the calculator do all the work. So we have a bunch of list of steps here. We're going to go through it together. We're going to use this as our example. So let's say we had to solve this system graphically using our graphing calculator. So the first step is to enter both equations into the y equals menu. So I have my graphing calculator up here. So the y equals menu is up in the upper left-hand corner, and y equals is on the button. So just hit y equals. So I'm going to enter both equations, 1 into y1, so negative 3x plus 6. The next equation I'm going to put in the other line, 2x plus 1. So we've entered the equations for our calculator to graph. What we need to do is select a starting window. Now, like when we did this with scatter plots, we recommend just using the built-in starting window. So the standard viewing window can be found by first pressing the zoom button, which is in the same place that you found the zoom stat. So I'm going to hit the zoom button. And then when we're graphing something, the best option is going to be option 6, which is zoom standard. So you can either scroll down to number 6, or you can just hit the 6. And it should bring you to a graph that looks like this. If you get some errors, write down what the errors would say. Most common errors, if it's not graphing something, what I would say at this point, just go double check your y equals. Make sure there's no typos, like you didn't use the minus instead of the negative. Also make sure there's nothing else written in any other the y equals. Sometimes you got to scroll down to see y equals 0, y 0. But just make sure there's nothing else written there. Make sure you use x. And if you can't solve your error, then just come see your teacher about that. Now what I've also included here is you can also just set that by hand if you wanted to. What we're saying is the standard viewing window is best set as the x minimum of negative 10, the x maximum of 10, the scale of the x's being 1, y minimum is 10, negative 10, y maximum is positive 10, y scale is 1. That is what the zoom standard button will do for you. So if I go to my window, you notice that it's exactly set. So once I've set my window, and after I hit zoom 6, it might bring me to the graph automatically. If it doesn't bring you to the graph automatically, or if you were just setting the window by hand, to see your graph, just hit the graph button. So once we see that graph, what we need to do is we need to find the point of intersection. So I can clearly see the point of intersection once this red one comes in. It's right there. So to have the calculator find it exactly, what we need to do is we need to hit the second button so that we can hit trace. Now if I hit the second button, that's blue, and the blue word above trace is calculate. So when I go into this menu, there's a lot of different things I can calculate, but I'm going to naturally choose option 5, which is the intersect. So I can either scroll down to 5 or hit number 5. Now, once you're here, it's going to ask you 3 questions, and I've listed those questions here, and you need to understand what it's trying to do. The calculator wants to know what lines you want to find the intersection of. So it's asking, what is the first line that you want me to use? So what you'll notice is the cursor is on the blue line, and it tells you the equation of the blue line. So is this one of the lines that I want to use? Yes. So when it's on that curve that I want to use, I hit enter. Then the second curve will come up saying, what's the other line you want to find the intersection of? So the other line is the red. Mine automatically jumped to red. If it doesn't jump to red, I can use the up and down button to change what line I'm on. I don't want to select the blue line again. The second line I want to find the intersection of is the red one. The last question is, where do you think they touch? So what is your guess? So I'd move my cursor, this time using left and right, to go as close as I can to that point of intersection. And then I have to hit enter to that. And this is a really important thing. Hit enter. You only have the answer when the calculator displays that word intersection. So I'm going to show you 2 different things here. So I'm going to repeat that process. If I did second calc, find the intersection. Is this one of my curves? Yes, that's one of them, so I hit enter. The second one is the red one, yes. And what you notice now is if I use my cursor, I can get close to the point of intersection. Like it says 1.06 and 3.12. But I'm not done until I actually hit enter to that. And once I hit enter, see how it says intersection? Once it says that, then you know that you have found the answer. If it doesn't say intersection, it hasn't calculated it exactly. So our answer here then, it tells us the x value is 1 and the y value is 3. So we have solved our system. One thing I want to go back to though is these steps right here. A lot of people get confused as to why is there a first curve, why is there a second curve, why is there a guess type thing. The way that we're doing it, we're only finding the intersection of two lines. But let's say I had this other line, like y equals 5 on my graph. My calculator wouldn't know what lines I want to find the intersection of. So I have to tell it. So if I'm solving this system, there's two lines there. So when I go to second calc, and I choose option 5 for intersect. Right now my calculator doesn't know what lines I want to see where it intersects. Do I want to use the red one, and I'll make this one green. Do I want to use the red and the green one? Do I want to use the red? Whoops, that didn't change. If I make it green, it'll be a little easier to see. So let's go back and look at that graph. So when there's more than one line on it, you need to tell the calculator which ones you're going to find the intersection of. So if I was trying to solve this system again, I want to use this line, negative 3x plus 6, and this line, 2x plus 1. So for my calculator, I would need just to tell it that. Those are the ones I want to use. So when I go to this second trace and choose the intersect, I get to choose which lines I want to use. So do I want to use this equation? Yes, that's one equation in my system. Is this another equation in my system? No, I don't want that one at all. So I'm going to choose up and down to choose a different one. Well, I've already chosen that one. So yep, there's the other one. Now where do I think they touch? They touch right there. So again, that's why it's asking you for first curve and second curve, just in case you have more than one graph on your calculator, so then it knows which two to find the intersection of. So here's a great little point to like check in and like follow along. I'm just going to do this really quickly. I'm not going to say everything out loud, but I would say maybe pause the video and try this one on your own and then resume the video to see if you get the same answer that I do. So for this, we have two equations. So I'm going to go into my y equals. I'm going to clear everything out. So this one, the first equation is 1.23x. The second equation is negative 0.45x plus 1. Zoom, I choose the standard zoom, so option 6. I can see these lines coming in. So there's my first one, here's my second one, and they do touch, so I know there's an answer there. So to find that point of intersection, second trace, I choose option 5 for the intersect. Is this one of the first curves? Yep, that's one of the equations I want to use. Enter. Is this the other equation? Yep, that's my other equation that's said there, so enter to that. Where do I think they touch? Right about there. And before I'm done, I got to hit enter. So we get a decimal answer here, but the final answer, if I round to 3 decimal places, is 0.595, comma 0.732. So that's the answer for that one. Now there are going to be some special things to watch out for. So sometimes you just can't see the point of intersection. So for instance, let's look at this system right here. So go into y equals, clear everything out. And the first equation is negative 1x plus 24. And then the second equation is 1/2. Notice I'm putting that, or putting the fractions in parentheses. So 1/2 x plus 3. Now when I go to zoom and choose the standard option, what I'm going to see is like nothing, essentially. I see that first line coming in. And notice how up here my calculator is spinning, so that means it's working. So it says it's done, and like I do not see the point of intersection. So that's what I'm saying here. Sometimes you cannot see the point of intersection, so you need to change your window. That just means the point of intersection isn't visible, so you need to change it. And it's a very logical idea on how to change things. We're just going to label some things and what they are. So x minimum, what that is that is the smallest x value on your graph. So I've labeled it, that's the x value, that's all the way to the left. X maximum represents the biggest x value on your scale. Now what I want you to associate with x min and x max is that those two things, those two letters, can change the window left and right. Meaning if I want to go further left, I would change my x minimum. If I want my graph to go further right, I would change my x maximum. Y minimum, that is the smallest y value on your graph, and y maximum is your biggest y value on the graph. So I'm just going to label that in our notes here. And then y maximum, as we said, was the biggest value of y on your graph. So the big important thing here then is y minimum is the bottom, y maximum is the top. So we can change the y minimum and y maximums to change the window up and down. Now there's a few things here just to be clear about as we're here. X scale and Y scale, all those is how much you want to count the tick marks by. When we're doing these, those are usually not important. So let's use that idea to find out where is this point of intersection. Well, if they're going to touch, like when I think about this, the first line has a y-intercept of positive 24. So if I think if I'm going to see where they touch, obviously the y-intercept is positive 24. So I need to see farther up on my graph. So I go into my window. And if I want to see farther up on my graph, I need to change the y maximum. So if the y-intercept is 24, maybe I'll just go up to 30. And let's just see what that looks like then. So I can see that graph coming in now. And I can see this other graph coming in. And I can see they're going to touch, but they don't touch yet. They're going to definitely touch over here. So I need to see more to the right. So if I'm looking for more to the right, that's the x maximum button or value. So I go into my window and change the x maximum. I'm just guessing. I don't know what it's going to be, so I'm going to try 20. Now after I do that, what I then see is that they actually do intersect. I'm just going to quickly find the point of intersection there, which I would ask you to also do. But after we change the viewing window, then we do get the answer. So I think they touch right about here. And then my calculator will tell me that they touch at the point 14, 10. Now one special situation too is sometimes we're going to use these to solve graphs that maybe we can't graph by hand, but the big idea is sometimes graphs might touch more than once and you can only find one at a time. So with this one, if I type in x squared and then the second equation is x plus 2, I'm going to go back to my standard viewing window. What we see here is that this equation, the blue graph, touches the red graph twice. So when that happens is you just need to find each intersection separately. So if I wanted to find the first point of intersection, second, calculate, I'm going to choose option 5, which is intersect. So yes, this is one of my first equations, so I hit enter. Yes, x plus 2 is the second equation. But when it touches twice, this is why it asks me for the guess. Which one do you want me to find? So if I wanted to find this one, I put my cursor on that one. But it's only going to find that point of intersection. If I wanted to find the other one up here, I have to repeat the entire process. Second, trace, choose option 5 for intersect. Yes, this is the first equation. Enter. What is the second equation? Yes, that's it right there. Where's my guess? Well, not here. I think they touch over here. So I have to move my cursor for the guess to find that second point of intersection. And when I do that, it'll tell me the second point of intersection. So this system has two answers. They touch at -1, 1, and they also touch at 2, 4.